What's going on, guys? Frankie Trades bringing you another new weekly stock watch list. Before we get started, though, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'd really appreciate it. And without much more being said, let's go ahead and dive into the watch list. So, going into this week, we got a new quarter starting for quarter 2. Got stocks like FedEx reporting this week, stocks like MU, Nike. A lot of the stock stats start to report on a new quarter. Now, as far as any of these stocks go, I'm not keeping an eye out for anything that piques my interest. Usually, I don't normally trade any of these stocks. I keep an eye out for them to see what they do because it's interesting, but normally they are off my radar. MU is really the only one I could see having some sort of after earnings play going into Thursday or even Friday if it has some sort of catalyst behind it. But besides that, there really isn't too much going on. So we can go ahead and divert from that. First things first with this is, you guys know I like to go over the indexes being NQ and ES. Now, obviously, with the whole situation right now with Iran and the U.S. and all that good stuff, there is a lot going on. So I can't promise that any of these levels will be accurate going into either tonight or going into tomorrow morning for the week. Who knows how the market's going to react, right? Most likely it will react poorly or badly in some sort of way or in some sort of manner. But for the meantime, with what is presented in front of me, with how the market closed on Friday, I am going to be keeping it out for ES at 60.70 and then above that 6100. Now, obviously, that is catered towards the upside, which would mean that there isn't anything bad going on over the weekend. But since there is, that is most likely unlikely. But in the case that we do gap down and this level does hold to the downside, I will be looking at 59.30. Now, we are far away from that, so you guys can see why I was more catered towards the upside. But if we do most likely gap down, I will be keeping an eye out for 59.30 going into 5900. So that's ES. Next up is NQ. NQ, kind of the same idea here. More focused on the upside. We're kind of still stuck in between both ranges, between 21,500 and then 22,100. As you can see, that's the level we had broken from the consolidation previously, and we decided to hold for the past 3 days on the prior week, from Tuesday all the way to Friday, with Thursday being closed because of the holiday. As far as the downside goes, I'm gonna be keeping an eye out for 21,500, like I had just mentioned. Obviously, with that, we also have a 4-hour uptrend that we would be breaking along with that as well. Now, again, with the news, that will most likely just be gapping down and breaking that trend line. But who knows? My job isn't to predict where the market's gonna go or where it's gonna open up at. My job is to execute with what is presented in front of me. And at the current moment, it's either going to be either the upside at 22,100 or 21,500. So both areas are on high watch right now. Now, first things first, I only have 3 stocks on my watch list, one being a really mediocre setup. First things I will talk about is NVDA. Now, if I go to NVDA here on the 4-hour first and then show you guys on the smaller time frame, obviously 141 to 140 is the consolidation of the bottom side that we have held for the past 2 weeks now. So obviously the downside, that is an ideal area that I'm going to be keeping an eye out for to see what kind of price action we get along with that. Upside will be around 146. Since we did break out of 145, it wasn't a strong consolidation break. We only got roughly a $1 breakout from that. It was good, but a $1 breakout on NVIDIA is not enough for a consolidation this long. So that is what I'm going to be keeping an eye out for here. As you can see on a closer picture on the 1 hour or the 30-minute, you can see why I would be looking at 146 for a continuation. But again, with news going around surrounding the market, who knows if we're going to get this or not to the upside. Next up is Tesla. Pretty straightforward setup here on the 1 hour. You guys can see that I will be keeping an eye out for 332.50 for the upside. As far as the downside goes, there really is no clear, clean level. But the nice thing about Tesla is how much liquidity, how much volatility, and how much follow through the stock can have, especially if it's weak against the market, meaning if the market's pumping or flat, while Tesla's weak, meaning it's dropping in dollar amounts on the stock, then it's showing clear weakness in the market, and it could be a stock to target because of how weak it is and ahead of the market. So that's the nice thing about Tesla, is you can trade these intraday levels with not too much trouble, but you still need to obviously note how the stock works, how it moves on its own, and all this other stuff. That's why we always stress to you guys, screen time is a big necessity when you are trading and starting to get some time in the market. So but yeah, 332.50 to the upside, and then the downside really just depends where it's going to open up at and how this is going to move. So last but not least is Coin. Now, obviously, Coin having a major, looking at the bigger chart is always crazy to me on this for me. But obviously this had a catalyst earlier this week. I've been trading it a little bit, not too much. Honestly, I did miss this because I was not home at the time when Coin did get this news. but I will be looking for a continuation at 310. Now, 300 doesn't look too bad, but the fact that we had to wick there multiple times, it doesn't seem too interesting for me, especially because of how big of a catalyst coin had on Thursday going into Friday. So that's why I'm more focused on the upside than the downside, because of how important this catalyst was and how well we actually held up 300. So I will be looking for a continuation above 310 going into 311. I don't need that big of a move on coin to really have that much of a profit in return or percentage. I'm just looking for the quick volatile move if coin does present one to us. So, but yeah, that's about it for the weekend, guys. I did have a couple other setups, but because of how the market could react, especially with all the news going on, it could react poorly and ruin a lot of the setups. So I'm only going to give these the 3 important ones that I could see any potential upside on or even downside if we get anything on these. So with that being said, hope you guys enjoy the watch list. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'd really appreciate it. And without more being said, hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Peace out.